Hello everyone. So today I'm going to be writing a Python code to check if a word or sentence is a palindrome. A palindrome is a group of words, a string of text that reads the same either from left to right or from right to left. Examples of palindromes include words like madam, kayak, level, and so on. So I'm going to be writing a code to do just that, check if a word or a sentence is a palindrome. Now I'm using Jupyter Notebook as an extension found inside the Microsoft Visual Studio. So in this second cell here, I have written out some code in the try block, which are the things that the code we're going to eventually write is supposed to be able to do. You put a word like madam, it's supposed to tell you that that is true. If you put a word like angry, I should tell you that that is false. It's not a palindrome. If you put a word like madam, it should print true. And this sentence, do geese see God? That should print true because it's a palindrome. Was it a car or a cat I saw? That is also a palindrome, and so on like that. But for now, the code is not going to work because obviously we've not defined the is palindrome function. So we're just going to have now we're just going to show give us the error message something went wrong. Let's try and run this code for now. Run all here, and then you're going to see something went wrong. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to begin by defining that function ispal, or called ispalindrome, in the first cell here. So I'm going to write def ispal, and then let's just put pass for now, and then run all, and then you see that that ispal is now recognized, no yellow lines underneath. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a parameter inside the brackets. So ispal should take a text, and if it takes a text, then should do some functions on that text, and then tell us whether it is true or not true as a palindrome. Let's run it now, and now we are seeing the results. Some texts are in there, but nothing is happening because we've not even defined what the function is supposed to do. So we have none, 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 except for the last one, which does not have a text in there. So that one says something went wrong. But for all the other ones, I already have some text, like madam, angry, and all these other ones. They are saying none. So now it is time to define our code. To define our code, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to initialize a list, which I'm going to call holding. So let's remove this pass and say holding is an empty list. Okay, so what am I going to do with that holding? I'm going to put all the characters that we're going to find in the text that the user is going to put in. I'm going to iterate through each character and then add them to the list. So for example, if you have a word like madam, then I'm going to iterate through picking M, then A, then D, then A, then M, and putting them into the list. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say for character in texts, then what am I going to do? I'm going to say holding dot append, and then what that essentially does is that, oh sorry, I didn't write this holding well. So what that essentially does is that it takes every character in whatever text that it supplies and it puts them into the lists, and that is that about that. So now that I have these characters in the list, I have a list which I now call holding. Then I'm going to make a copy of that holding. I'm going to say holding dot copy, and then I will not, that will give me a new list which I'm going to call holding 2. Yeah, just a holding list of some sort. So I'm going to call that holding 2 equals holding just copy. Yep. So now that I have a new, so what I'm essentially doing is I'm duplicating the first list and putting all the elements in the second list. So what I'm not going to do with that second list is I'm going to rearrange the elements of that list in reverse order. I'm going to be using the reverse method of lists. I'm going to say holding 2 dot reverse. So that should give me that list. Then now I have two lists. The first list, which is the list of all the characters that are in the word that is supplied by the user, and then the second list, which is a copy of the other one but now in reverse order. So what that essentially does is that it's going to arrange all the characters from the beginning to the end, and then from the end to the beginning in two lists. And I'm going to make a comparison, and I'm going to say that if holding is the same thing as holding 2, okay, so I didn't spell this well. If holding, if all the characters in holding is now the same thing as the characters in holding 2, what should happen? Then return true. And what that means is that since I have, I have a list from left to right, then I have a second list which I have reversed. So now from right to left, if they are the same thing, which means that if the word reads the same from left to right and from right to left, then return true. Otherwise, return false. So I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say else return false, and then that should be that. So I think our code is ready for testing. I'm just going to do that right now. Let's test it. So I'm going to say run all. Let's see. All right, we're beginning to make some headway in our code. Let's see here. So now we have that madam is true as a palindrome, because whether you read from left or right, madam is a palindrome. But angrier is false. The other madam is true. It's not. It should be true, but now it's saying false. So something is wrong somewhere. We gotta adjust that. And all the others are false. So, but the first one is true, and that means we've achieved some level of success. So let's just go back and see what we can do. Okay, so of course angrier is false and it's correctly printed. So we have two of them correct already. So what is up with this madam? Well, what is up with this madam is that the madam is having a capital letter M instead of a small letter m, and Python is case sensitive unless you specifically tell it not to be case sensitive. So in this case, it's reading capital letter M differently from small letter m. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to make sure that it ignores that. And how am I going to do that? I need to put the method dot lower somewhere. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to go back to that place where I said holding dot append the character. So as the Python program is iterating through the characters, it's taking capital letters for capital letters, uppercase for uppercase, lowercase for lowercase. So what I want you to do, instead of taking uppercase for uppercase, I want you to change everything to lowercase. So I'm just going to come here and say, what you're going to append for me, Python, is the lowercase of whatever you pick from the text. So if you pick a capital letter M, when you're appending it to my holding cell, you have to append the lowercase. So let's check. I think this should run now. Let's see. Run all. All right. Finally, we have success. The first one is true, and it should be true. The second one is false, and it should be false. The third one is true, and this is true. So now we have a problem. The next problem that we have to solve now is this one that says, do geese see God? That should print true, because if you look at it from the left to right, from the right to the left, do geese see God is a palindrome. But the problem here now is that Python is also seeing these characters, the space as a character. and that is not looking well for our code. So what we have to do is that we're going to get Python to disregard the space character. Now we're going to do that. We're going to come here and say that for every character in the text, and we're going to add some condition. If the character is if it's a space, disregard it. So that's what I'm going to do here. For character in text, I'm going to come here and put a condition. If the character is a space, which is, I'm going to write it like this, and I'm going to say what's going to happen. I'm going to say continue, and continue is essentially a way of telling Python skip that particular one. So if character is a space, continue, go back to the top and pick the next one. Disregard that character. Do not append it to the holding cell. So I think this should work now. Let's see. Let's run. Now let's see. I'm overcorrect. Yeah, sure. So we have true, false, true, true on the first, second, third, and fourth level. True, false, true, true. So we have success all the way to the fourth level. Do geese see God is now recognized as a palindrome. Now, what about this one? Was it a car or a cat I saw? Well, was it a car or a cat I saw is actually a palindrome. But the problem here is that there is a question mark, so Python is not recognizing that question mark. Or rather, it is adding it to the list. And since there is no question mark at the beginning, Python doesn't recognize this as a palindrome. We have to do away with that. We have to get it to disregard that question mark or any other special character for that matter, because sometimes it may be a full stop, sometimes it might be an exclamation mark. So what do? I think what we need to tell Python to do is that the Python should just take only the alphabets and ignore all the others. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to reset this condition here. Instead of saying that character should the character should not be space, I'm going to specifically say that the character has to be an alphabet. So I'm going to use a method called the isAlpha method. So I'm going to say that if the character is not an alphabet, then continue, move on to the next thing. So I'm going to say if character dot is alpha, which is if it is alphabet, don't continue, pick it. But if it is not, so we'll say if not character dot is alpha, then continue. What that means is that if this character that you're picking is not an alphabet, just disregard it and move on to the next one. And now I guess that fifth one should now be true. Let's run all and see. Success. So we'll see true, false, true, true, true. So true, false, true, true, true. Wow, that's 5/7. We have 2 more to go. So what is going on here? Now we have a list of characters, and so Python doesn't recognize that list yet. We have to make sure that Python is able to take a list of characters and tell us, take each element in the list and then tell us if it's a palindrome or not. And in this case, for level, Madam, Angria, and Kayak, should print true, true, false, and true on a single line like that, for each of the words in the list. So we have to reconfigure our program to accept lists too. So how do we do that? We're going to go back and tinker with the code somehow. So the way I'm going to solve this particular problem is to go back to the top and have Python check if the text that is given is actually a string or a list. So I'm going to come here, before any other thing I'm going to say check if it's a string of text. So I'm going to say if text or type of text, if the type for the text is string, then I'm going to have to indent all of this because they fall under that if condition. Yep, so I think we're in order. If the type for the text is a string, then do all these things. But if it is not a string, then you have to do something else. What are you going to do? So I'm going to indent it. So if what you enter is just one word, that's what you call a string. then Python is now going to do all these things that we've been doing. But if it is not a string, then it is probably going to be a list. So we're going to have it to return something else, and we're going to use something called recursion in Python, where you have to use the same function within itself over and over and over again. So I'm going to have it return a list, because definitely I need a list of responses if I have a list of inputs. So I'm going to have it return a list, and in that list what I'm going to have is going to be using that same function that we're still defining, which is ispal. I'm going to use that ispal for every word that you're going to find in the list. So we're assuming that if the user doesn't enter a single word, and is entering a list of words. So in this case, if it is not just one word, if it's a list, then take each word in the list and run the ispal on them. So I'm going to say ispal for the word, for each word, let's say word in text, or whatever that you entered. So I think this should work now. So again, let me explain this again. So if one word has been entered, then that is a string type. So Python is going to run all these that I've said earlier, and everything is in order. But if it is not a single word, if it's a list of words, then it's just going to skip all this, and now it's going to take the lists and take every word in that list and try to run this ispal function on them. And so if it's madam as the first word, and it's going to run it through the ispal, and if it is true, then it returns true. If it is false, then it returns false, and like that for every word in that text. Actually, I should change this text to input. So I'm going to go Control H, find, let's remove the text and just change it to inputs. Yep. So okay, I think everything is in order now. Yes. Alright, so let's run this function and see if it works. So we were at level 5 the other time, so we'll have to see if level 6 will run true now. Alright, so we have true, true, false, true, and that is because level, madam are both palindromes. Angria is not a palindrome, so that is false. As you can see, the third one is false, and kayak is true. Just to be sure, let me just change this angria to something like kayak here. Okay, and then put angria or any other word here. Let me say mango. So it should be true, 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 false. Let's just run it again. See, true, 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 false. That is wonderful. Now finally, what if the user doesn't enter a text? What are we going to have? We're going to have something went wrong that's going to be printed for us. But what if you don't want that? Maybe the user forgot. You should have a prompt to tell the user that put in the word you want to enter. So we'll go back to the top and tinker with some things. So first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to say set this input to a variable called a constant called none. Yep. So let's set this to none. Now beginning at the top here, we're going to have a condition. If inputs is none, that's the first thing to check. What happens? Then do something. What should you do? Inputs. Now you have to give that input something, and what is the thing you're going to give? You're going to give it you're going to give the user a prompt to enter something. So by writing input here without the s, we are asking Python to display an input box, a dialog box of some sort, for the user to enter something, and we're going to write the prompts for what the user is going to write. So I'm going to say enter the word to check, or say the word or lists of words to check. Yes, that's it. And then just let it go to the next line before it can enter. So now we won't have something went wrong again, I believe. we should now have Python prompting the user to enter something. So let's rerun this whole thing and see. All right, okay, running slow. Oh yeah, oh, the prompt is right here on top. Enter the word or list of words to check. So I'm just going to say Python, and that should be false. So obviously, as you can see, that is false. I'm just going to run it again with something that should be true. So just to confirm that it works, let's try again. So everything comes out again. Then I have the prompt here. Enter the word or list of words. Depending on the code editor you're using, yours may just come below. So enter the words or list of words to check. So I'm going to write do geese see God and put a question mark. That should be true because I've basically taken care of all the lowercase, uppercase issues and all the special characters issues. So that should be true. Voila, our code is working. So that has been the code to check if a word, a string, or list of strings is a palindrome. It's been my pleasure doing this. I hope to be able to do another one sometime soon. Alright, bye bye now.